So, I was going to have you stand. Do you feel like standing again? Okay. It's after lunch. I don't know about the yoga, but a little stretch is always good. But what I like to do is I like to have you turn to your neighbor and say something nice to the person next to you. Don't be weird, don't be creepy. You can get in a lot of trouble, no touching. But just take a moment. And if you have a minute, say something to the person on the other side, something nice. I want to thank everyone for sticking around after lunchtime. I know that that's often a time when people make their exit out the door. But I am so happy to be here with you this afternoon. There are a number of people on my team that have been here all day, and they've been sending me back great feedback about how the day's been. So if you've enjoyed your morning and up to this point, why don't you give a round of applause for everybody that has been a speaker so far and for yourselves for participating. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this afternoon about leadership. It's something that obviously it's near and dear to everybody that's here in the room, but it's something that's near and dear to me as well. Thank you for the very warm and kind introduction. I appreciate that. I have two confessions to make before I get started. The first one is I can't see any of you because I'm at this weird stage of my life where I've been wearing contacts for my entire life, and I'm sick of it. So I stopped wearing contacts, and I'm wearing what my husband calls my ugly glasses, which I don't really appreciate because he had no style before he married me, and he has a lot of nerve to tell me that my glasses are ugly. So I'm not wearing my contacts. Now I'm not wearing my glasses, and it's a choice that I have to make either between seeing the slides in my notes or seeing your faces. So I get a general sense that you're smiling, and so I appreciate that. That's the first confession. The second confession that I have to make is that I was sitting in my very important strategic board meeting this morning at about 8:30, and my neck kept itching. So I'm sitting in my board meeting with all these important people scratching my neck, and I finally just pulled down the front of my dress, and I realized that my dress was on backwards this morning. So I got up super early, tried not to wake up my husband, got dressed in the dark, and that's what happens when you get dressed in the dark. We all have our leadership moments, and I want you to, if you didn't realize it before and appreciate it before, we are all just people trying to get by on a day-to-day basis. So that's first and foremost. So if I have to adjust because I can't see anything, please bear with me. Camelia, I might actually ask you to run the slides for me because that's just way too much to ask me to do this afternoon. Thank you. So I'm Carmen Tapio. I'm President and CEO of North End Teleservices. How many of you have worked in a call center at some point in your life? It's kind of a rite of passage, especially in this town, right? So that's what we do. We are an outsourced call center company, and we provide outsourced contact center solutions, phone, chat, and email to a variety of customers. It's not the same as it was way back in the day when it was 1-800 telemarketing, selling this, that, or the other thing over the phone. This is true business process outsourcing where organizations are lifting up internal processes related to their communications and their contact center, and they're outsourcing them to organizations like ours. So I just wanted you to get a perspective of who we are as a company. We are actually celebrating our 3-year anniversary this month, something that we're very proud of. We are located at 24th and Hamilton, and our mission is about creating jobs and changing lives, and we'll talk more about that. But for us, it's been a journey. It's been definitely a road to getting where we're at today, and again, it's one that we're extremely proud of. I think that table back there, I can't really tell if it's them or not because I can't see them, but most of the people at that table back there are on my team. If you leave here with nothing else today from our conversation, I want you to walk away with a confidence an ability to articulate what your natural talent, skills, and abilities are. Those things that come naturally to you. Some people would call it your genius. Other people would call it your natural gifts. The other thing that I want you to walk away with are what your talent, skills, and abilities that may not come naturally to you, but that come from experiential learning, okay? It might seem very simplistic a thing to say, that we should all feel comfortable with our natural talent, skills, and ability, and more importantly, articulating them. But I will tell you that when I ask people what theirs are, I usually get silence. And being able to articulate what your strengths are and what your contribution is a good thing. So I want you to take a moment, let's take just a couple minutes, and if you have paper, I want you to write down what your natural talent, strengths, and abilities are. I think mine have been scrolling. And when I introduce myself, that's one of the ways that I introduce myself. When I try to tell people what I do and who I am, one of the ways that I will do that is I will say I'm a builder. I'm a builder of business, I'm a builder of process, I'm a builder of people. That's just one example, okay? So take a minute and I want you to write down what yours are. Just think about what they are and write a few points. Anyone willing to share what theirs are?
Hey, I wrote developer, and I followed your pattern of 3. Developer of people, developer of mindsets, and developer of leadership processes.
That's awesome. Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a planner, executor, and teacher.
Thank you.
And I said supporter, listener, and encourager.
I love it. Thank you. This is your chance to practice saying it aloud. Anyone else? How about you, Lisa? I see you back there.
Businesswoman, visionary, hardworking.
All right, one more.
A learner, a teacher, and a dispenser of wisdom.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you. So for me, I'm a builder of business and organizations, and I've done a lot of startups throughout my career. I also have a lot of experience creating new processes, and as a leader, my role is to help people develop and acquire new skills. These are the skills that I've gained through the years of experience, and I happen to enjoy them as well. They're things that I'm passionate about. In addition to that, I'm also a teacher, an encourager, and a mentor as well. It's very easy for me to transfer my knowledge, and I'm always working on new ways and a toolkit of ways to teach and encourage people. I say to my staff that I've reached my age of usefulness, but that's not really why I enjoy being a teacher and a mentor, because I do think it's important that the years of experience that I have, that I do transfer the knowledge to them, but it's also important that I listen to and consider the younger generations and help them find their voice in business as well. I believe that as a leader, it's also my role to mentor and grow others and to help them to succeed in life and in business. For me, being a teacher is what I acknowledge to be my gift. And again, I ask you the question, what is yours? I also really enjoy thinking and working at a strategic level, but my brain naturally goes to not just the strategy, but I'm also a doer. So I am a tactical implementer as well. So I'm both right brain and left brain, which is a little weird, I know. But I can't think strategy without also thinking about, practically speaking, how do we achieve the strategy? So I'm a strategist in a lot of different areas by nature, and I can't look past the strategy, but also, as I said, I have to think about how to tactically implement and see what can be accomplished. What are your experiential and natural leadership talents, skills, and abilities? And you took a minute to write them down, and I want you to keep those in front of you. I want you to refine them and work on them, and as I said, I want you to get comfortable telling others and saying them out loud. So my discussion today is about the path to leadership is really a journey. And I'm going to take you a little bit on a journey of my path of leadership, and I want you to think about and consider yours as well. As I look back on my life, I wish I could say that I'd perfectly planned the moment that I would be standing here talking with you today. And I can't do that because none of it was planned. The one thing that I can tell you is that my father told me when I was in my 20s, he was a military man, he was in the Air Force, and one of the things that he told me at a very young age was that if I were to take the time to think about what my life would look like in 5 years, and I was 17 or 18 at the time that we had this conversation, and he said, I want you to be intentional and just envision what your life would look like. I thought it was stupid. I was 17 or 18, but I did it because he was my dad. And I actually wrote down what my life would look like in 5 years. And 5 years later, I was able to go back to that piece of paper, and I was able to see that the things that I had envisioned for my life, I actually achieved. It was not intentionally. It felt very much by accident. But for some strange reason, that path that I had laid out in my mind was the path that was laid before me and the path that I took on my journey. So as I stand here today, I can tell you that I am at the happiest period that I have ever been in my life. And I really feel this way every single day. For those of you that are about my age or even a little older, one of the things I like to say, I look at my husband, and he thinks I'm weird, but I say it anyway, and he knows exactly what I'm going to say. But what I say is this: I have tripped the light fantastic. I have never done acid in my life. I don't think. But if I had, that's how I feel about my life right now. And if my days on earth were to end at any moment, I could leave this place completely and utterly happy. I could do this even while knowing that as long as I'm here on earth, that there's more work for me to do, that there's more for me to contribute every single day. The gift that I have is simply being here. There is little that I actually planned, so I stand here today as a leader completely surprised at where I've been and where I'm going. And every day I'm surprised at the path that led me here. The surprise is the wonder and the joy of it all. Be prepared as a leader to be surprised. Be prepared to be surprised at yourself. Be prepared to be surprised at your life. I found the more that I lead, the more that I'm called to do. There are 8 things that I want to leave you with and that I want you to remember about leadership. So, are you ready to write some things down? Okay. I want you to reflect back on these from time to time. And the first one is to lead wherever you are. You don't need a title, and you don't need to wait until someone else tells you that you're a leader. My first real job was actually at the Henry Doily Zoo, and I wasn't quite legal to work, but I worked there anyway. I started at the concession stand by the old petting zoo, and I was there over the summer for a number of years. I had the opportunity to eventually supervise my older sister, which was payback for all the torture that she had inflicted upon me throughout my years. But it was there that I learned about customer service. It was there that I learned about financial transactions, and it was there that I started to get my first promotions because I was doing well. That was my first job. My first career started at First Data Resources, where a lot of people in this town also grow up in business. And there I started working for government services back in 1980-something, and I did data entry. I was 18 years old. And at the time, you could make a lot of money just pounding on a computer doing 10-key data entry. It was back when the 9-digit zip code was being developed, and all we did was enter zip codes in the system all day long. And believe it or not, you could make money doing that. And I made a lot of money for an 18-year-old. But it was there that I also decided that if I was going to do something, I would be the very best that I could be at whatever it was that I was doing. And so I was the best damn data entry, Zip+4 data enterer at First Data Resources. What I didn't realize was by setting the bar high for myself, that I was also setting the bar high for the rest of the organization. And so I was a leader in what I was doing, and what I was doing at the time was data entry. So again, by being the best that you can be and viewing yourself as a leader, no matter where you are, no matter what it is that you're doing, you can be a leader. The second thing that I want to leave you with and want you to remember is I want you to remember your first leadership moment. That also happened at First Data Resources. I was on break. I was probably 19 at the time, and I came back from break late. And I had a conversation with my supervisor. He called me into his office. His name was Bob Crockett. Called me into his office, and the conversation went like this. If you ever come back from break late again, I will fire you on the spot. And not only will I fire you on the spot, I will fire the 5 or 7 people that you come dragging with you every time that you're late for break. I was like, okay. He said, you're a leader and you don't even realize it. He said, until you recognize the leadership that you have within you, you're back on the phones. That conversation changed my life. I would not be standing here in front of you today having this conversation about leadership if my supervisor, my mentor, hadn't taken me aside and threatened to fire me. But more important than threatening to fire me, what he did was he opened my eyes and he changed my perspective. As a leader, you can do that for others as well. I don't know about threatening to fire them, if that's the right approach to take, but he got his point across, and it changed the path that I'm on. So I want you to think about for a moment, what was your first leadership moment that you remember? Just take one moment and write it down if you would. Anyone willing to share? I think we learn the greatest through stories, so if you're willing to share any of your stories, that's extremely helpful. If not, that's okay.
Carmen, thank you for bringing that up, number one, but I can go back to my senior year in high school playing basketball. And we thought we were all that in a bag of chips. And you can imagine 18-year-old boys running around. Well, we decided one day that we needed to run laps, or our coach did. So I don't know why we did it, but we decided to run with our shorts way down here so that our backsides were kind of hanging out as we were running around laps. And my coach, a guy by the name of Stan Hagman, came out, and Stan had a booming voice. And man, he pulled us aside. And the thing that stood out to me, he says, guys, what if my wife and my triplets would have walked in the room when you knuckleheads were running around like that? And so it was always about keeping that thing in mind in terms of what would other people perceive if they saw you in action.
Yes, absolutely. That's such a great point. We don't even realize it. You know, we're doing stupid things and other people are watching. I was as I was writing this, I was thinking about just being at the grocery store, and sometimes when you're in the checkout line and there's someone that's moving really slowly, or they're, you know, not very good at their job, and, you know, you might get frustrated and you're the one that kind of gives it to them. Well, you're leading. That opens the door for the person behind you to also give it to them. So it's those little moments in our lives where we can be aware, and we should be aware of our place as a leader, no matter where it is that we're at. So thank you for sharing that. The third thing that I want you to remember and to do is to embrace your leadership style. You are uniquely you, and the way that you lead is unique as well. I happen to be a collaborator. I'll tell you a quick story about, I was leading an international team. We were in Amsterdam, actually. We were working with Philips Magnavox, and I had a team of people from 14 different countries. And we'd been working virtually and had never met each other. And we came together to prepare for a week-long client meeting. And it was really interesting because coming from different countries and sitting in a room and trying to talk about business and trying to develop strategy and planning, we couldn't understand what the heck each other was really saying. There was a lot of, just normal language, but there was some slang. And we couldn't get our act together to develop a plan because of the language barriers. And so I thought, okay, this is kind of stupid. We can sit in this room all day and pretend like we're getting a lot done, or we're in Amsterdam. What do you do when you're in Amsterdam, right? It's a beautiful country, beautiful city. And so we left the conference room, took off our suits, put on our casual clothes, and we toured the city. And it was while we were touring the city and we broke into small groups that people got to know each other and started to understand the language, the various languages that were being spoken. Everyone was trying to speak English, but what was more important than getting to the business at hand was the team building that needed to take place, and we did it in Amsterdam. And I have to say that that team was one of the best teams that I've ever had the pleasure of leading and managing. That team back there is the best team that I've ever had the pleasure of leading and managing. The people around me are hired for a reason, and one of the things that I try to do is make sure that they understand that I hire them so that I can hear their voice. I am not the smartest person in the room. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, and as I said, I look at it as if I'm at the point of my usefulness. Where I add value to the organization is really in that teaching and that mentorship and that transfer of knowledge, but I've hired them because of their expertise, their experience, and their ability to solve problems and to innovate. Don't get me wrong, I will be the first one to make the tough decision when that decision needs to be made, but I'd much rather sit in the room and ask the right questions and help facilitate my team in order to getting to the answer if that's what I can do to support them. So I want you to think about and acknowledge your leadership style and embrace that style, whatever it is. The next thing that I want you to think about is your leadership responsibility. Today is an important day in our history, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge the leadership and the bravery of all those who lost their lives on September 11th, and the courage and the leadership shown by the first responders. I recently got back from a trip to New York City where I had the opportunity to visit the World Trade Center Memorial. I had been at the World Trade Center years ago, several times actually years ago, and I never got a full grasp, and never a full understanding of the size of those buildings until I saw the breadth and the depth of the footprint that was left behind when those buildings were brought down by terrorists. I fully recognize my leadership responsibility on the day that the airplanes hit the towers at the World Trade Center. I was standing at home in my bathroom. I decided to go into work a little bit late. I was watching the news, and I saw the first plane hit the tower. And I thought I was watching a scene from a movie trailer. I couldn't believe my eyes, and when I understood what was happening, the first thing that I thought was, my people need me. I got in my car and I left my house. I went to the office. And as I had suspected, people were wondering the same thing, is what they just saw real? And so I gathered my team together. We have a very large, had a very large conference room and a very large TV. I gathered just my team in that conference room, and we watched together the plane hit the second tower and watched it come down. And of course, as we're watching it live together, people were terrified. And I remember the rush as the air left the room, as people gasped as they understood what they were seeing. And I said to my team at that moment, I said, if you're gonna cry, you're gonna cry in here. If you're going to fall to your knees and fall apart, you're going to do it in here. But the minute we walk out of this room, there are 600 people out there that need our leadership. We are going to walk out of here strong and cohesive, and we're going to get to whatever the work is at hand that we need to do. I was running Carlson Companies, a reservation center, and I knew that our mission and our purpose was going to change in those moments. We went from making and taking reservations to helping our employees, but a lot of people find their way home after all the planes were grounded. We became a logistics center for the industry. And our responsibility was transferred to helping people find a place to stay, getting rental cars, connecting people so that they could rent cars together and make their way homes, putting people up in hotels. Our mission became very, very different. It was at that moment and in the days and weeks that followed that I truly understood the weight of responsibility, the honor and the privilege of responsibility of being a leader. And I have never looked at the people that work for me different. I understand that I am responsible for their well-being, and it was that moment that changed my life and my view of leadership. So I hope you understand, if you're responsible for people, the magnitude of the responsibility that you have as well. The next thing that I want you to remember and to do is to broaden your leadership experience. I want you to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, and if the opportunity doesn't come your way, then raise your hand and go after it yourself. Saying yes led me to product development, marketing, IT, and leading a variety of functional areas. I always say I'm a jack of all trades, I'm an expert at nothing, but I think in business they say you're a generalist. I've done a lot of new business startups and led operating groups both nationally and domestically, and saying yes has taken me around the world. Throughout my career, I've become a generalist. I'm in a lot of different areas, as I said. And if you see something that needs to be done, be a leader and just do it. It was by me seeing something that needed to be done at Carlson Companies, I looked around the organization and I noticed that there was no one else in the organization at a leadership position that looked like me. And I did not intend for it to turn out to be a job, but ultimately it did. I started a little project on the side of my desk. I was holding brown bag lunches for people to talk about what diversity and inclusion means, and ultimately it turned into the head of diversity for Carlson Hotels, and then after about a year and a half, I became the chief of diversity officer for Carlson globally, and also the head of social responsibility. So if there is a need, you're the one that can fill it. If you see something that needs to be done, just do it. I promise you it'll lead to great things for you. Today, my work in my business is the culmination of everything that I've done in my past, and as I said, I'm the happiest person, happiest girl in the world. I like to sing that in the morning. I'm the happiest girl in the whole USA. That's how I feel every day. The next thing I want you to remember is to lead genuinely. We are all just human beings, and we have the opportunity to make the person we are interacting with feel like they are the most important person in the world if we just give them our time and our attention. I was sitting talking with someone one day, and they stopped me mid-conversation. They said, "Do you know that you make me feel like I'm the only person in the world when you're talking to me?" That was one of the greatest compliments that I've ever received in my career and in my life. Marilyn Carlson Nelson, chairwoman of Carlson Companies, told me one day that I would never go wrong if I led with my heart. And I have never forgotten those words either. And leading with our hearts is something that we do at my company every single day. Our mission is creating jobs and changing lives, and we strive to care for the well-being of every person that comes through our doors, and I think I started this conversation saying that. Our mission is broad and far beyond what I could have dreamed or what was originally intended. When I was on my way over here, I got a text from a young lady that works for us, and her text to me was, "There aren't a lot of places," and I don't remember the words exactly, but there aren't a lot of companies that care about the financial situation of its employees. So thank you, Ms. Carmen, for the work that She named myself, Camelia, Keisha, and some of the others. We're bringing social services into our organization. That's how deeply we care about the people that work for us and how our mission has gone far beyond anything that we could have ever imagined it to be. And so we have we're working on getting social workers on site at our location, but we're concerned about their health, we're concerned about their financial situation, we're concerned about their education. We have people in my office, I have a filing cabinet. If you want to start a savings account, you can bring me money and I'll take it. And I'll lock it up in a file cabinet for you. And just 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago actually, I was able to give a young lady almost $1,900 when she first opened up her savings account in my office. She gave me $2 in bills and $2 in change, and she was mortified. I was very happy to give her back almost $2,000 so that she could go and rent a home for herself and her 3 kids. Our mission is broad, and as I said, far beyond what we could have intended, and because of this, we are a company that not only cares about the person, but we also strive for excellence. We strive to have genuine relationships with our client, and we strive to earn the business every single day. We don't take anything that we do for granted. We become a mission-forward social enterprise, and I wouldn't have it any other way. If we can do it, other companies can do it as well. I want you to view leadership as a journey and let your path lead you. We may strive to be strategic in our decision-making and try to make all of the right choices in our life, in our careers, and in leadership. Sometimes we just try to be, quite frankly, too smart for our own good. Sometimes you have to answer the call of leadership simply because you must. Sometimes the path of leadership chooses you. The final thing that I want to leave you with is I want you to understand that the world is depending upon you. If every one of us would do our part in leadership from no matter where it is that we sit, we could solve a lot of problems in our neighborhoods, our communities, and I would dare to say in the world. You might not see it or believe it to be true, but I want you to know that the world is counting on those of us that are willing to look beyond our differences and what sometimes seems to be very divisive ways. I will say it again, we must look beyond our differences. The world is depending on business and community to go further faster by working together on the things that we agree upon. The world needs more leaders. The world needs more leaders. Leadership is indeed a journey. What path will you take? Thank you very much.